Nigeria is not failing. Nigeria is functioning exactly the way it was designed to. And once you understand the design, you can't unsee it. What we call poverty, corruption, underdevelopment, these are not accidents. They are features of a system we never consented to. Most Nigerians believe something went wrong somewhere. You know that if we just had better leaders or less corruption or more discipline, that things will work out. But what if nothing actually went wrong? What if the system is working perfectly as designed, but just not for you and I? To understand Nigeria, you need to stop looking at it as a country. Nigeria is not a nation state in the traditional sense. It's a sophisticated psychological enclosure, a corporate experiment that successfully transitioned from colonial extraction to neoliberal cannibalism without ever changing its fundamental code. We are living inside a mirage, a carefully constructed reality where the life force of our people, our very soul, is the true export. Today we are going to perform an autopsy on the Nigerian dream. We are going to look at the system that programs our egos, the propaganda that manufactures our consents, and the metaphysical ritual of depth that keeps our souls in perpetual bondage. This isn't just about economics, this is about a war for our consciousness. The question is simple: how did we get here? But the answer requires us to see something that most of us have never been trained to see. Can identify it, an invisible architecture. A system so perfectly designed that it convinces you that your poverty is your fault, that your struggle is because you're not grinding hard enough, that the solution to the systemic extraction of our resources is individual entrepreneurship. Today, we're going to deconstruct that lie. We're going to trace the blueprint of your cage, because you can't escape a system that you don't understand. Let's go back to the beginning, not 1960, not even 1914. Let's go back to the period of the Royal Niger Company. Before there was a flag, there was a ledger. The territory we now call home was purchased for about £900,000. From its inception, the logic of this place we call Nigeria has always been one of return on investment. When the British handed over the keys, they didn't dismantle the extraction machine. They simply handed over the controls to a new class of operators. The transition to modern Nigeria state was more of a rebranding exercise. We traded the colonial officer for the neoliberal technocrat. And this is where the first layer of the illusion begins. The belief that the state exists to serve you. It does not. Nigeria, in its current neoliberal form, exists to facilitate the flow of capital out of the local ecosystem and into the global space. Now, let's fast forward to 1986. Nigeria is in crisis. Oil prices have collapsed and the military government is desperate. And then, like a knight in shiny armor, the IMF arrives with a solution. The Structural Adjustment Program. On paper, they made it sound reasonable. Liberalize your economy, remove subsidies, privatize state assets, open your markets to foreign competition, trust the invisible hand of the market. But what they didn't tell us, what they never tell any country in the global south, is that this isn't economic policy. This is economic colonialism with a spreadsheet. The SAP of 1986 didn't just restructure our economy, it restructured our reality. It fundamentally altered the relationship between the Nigerian government and the Nigerian people. But more importantly, and more tragically, it altered our consciousness. The SAP was a national lobotomy. By forcing the devaluation of the naira and privatizing public assets, the system achieved something brilliant. It shifted the burden of survival entirely onto the individual. Think about the psychological warfare of that move. When the state retreats from providing electricity, education, and safety, it forces you into a state of hyper-individualism. We call it being a hustler. We pride ourselves on our resilience, but in all honesty, and to go a level deeper, this is a low vibration state of existence. It places people in a permanent survival mode. When you're constantly worried about where the next meal or where your next liter of food is coming from, you do not have the cognitive strength to question the state of your prison. Neoliberalism replaced collective responsibility with personal shame, and that is how consent is manufactured. You aren't forced to obey, you are conditioned to compete. You are told that your neighbor is your rival for scarce resources, rather than your partner in a shared reality. The system programs your ego to crave the very things that enslaves you. You see the big man archetype, the politician with the convoy, the billionaire with the private jet, and instead of seeing a symptom of the systemic rot, we watch them as goals and objectives. The materialism has eaten into our psyche. This ego programming is the most effective form of social conditioning. It creates a collective trauma where we believe that suffering is necessary for success. We've turned sufferhead into a badge of honor. But this trauma is the engine of the capitalist machine. It keeps the population in a state of fractured consciousness, unable to form a collective V. The entire point of economics is allocation of resources, and you can't look me in the eye and tell me the way the world works now is ideal, that this is the best way to allocate our resources for 8 billion people on the planet. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. When you privatize education and healthcare, you're setting the concept that your well-being is solely your individual responsibility, that there is no collective, only individuals competing in the marketplace. The most successful ideological weapon deployed in Nigeria is the myth of meritocracy, the gospel of hustle. They believe that if you're poor, it's because you're not working hard enough. Be an entrepreneur, start a side hustle, create multiple streams of income, wake up at 4 a.m, bath with cold water, sleep is for the week, all that shit. Nobody owes you anything. Your network is your network. Success is a choice. I mean, we all say it. I do say it every day also. It's a strategic lie. It's a lie designed to make you blame yourself for a systemic failure. But don't get me wrong, hard work does matter. Personal responsibility exists. But the truth is, you can work hard for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and remain poor for the rest of your life. Not because you're not working hard enough, but because the system is designed to extract value from your labor and transfer it upward to the ruling class, the capitalists. This is neoliberalism's greatest trick. Aside policy change, it changes consciousness. It makes you believe that the cage is freedom. It's a satanic form of capitalism. Every 4 years, you participate in the ritual of democratic election. We argue about personalities, ethnicities, turns, but it's all a facade. You see, in a neoliberal system, the government is often just the middleman. It's the middle management for global capital. The real decisions aren't made in Abuja. They are made in boardrooms of the IMF, the World Bank, and headquarters of multinational oil corporations. The political drama you see on the news is just a digital distraction. It's a part of the matrix designed to keep your attention focused on the puppets while the real players are moving behind the scenes. It's a spectacle that gives you the illusion of agency while the underlying economic struggles remain untouched. Whatever political party is in charge, the debt continues to grow, the naira continues to bleed, and the extraction continues perpetually. Now I want us to go a little bit more metaphysical, because we exist in more than just the physical reality. Alright, so let's talk about the illusion of money. What is the naira really? What is the naira? In our current system, money is not a store of value. It's a claim on future human energy. When the currency is devalued, your labor, the hours of your life you spent earning that money, is literally stolen. It's a form of energy harvesting. Debt is the spiritual bondage of the 21st century. National debt isn't just numbers on the screen. It's a metaphysical leash that links the unborn generation of Nigerians to the global financial system. It ensures that before a Nigerian child is even born, their future labor has already been sold to pay interest on a loan that is never going to benefit them. It's a ritual that ensures that the so-called third world always feeds the West, and the poor always follows the lifestyle of the rich. We live in a price-tag reality. We have been conditioned to believe that everything has a price and nothing has inherent value. Everything belongs to the market. Our land, our water, our culture, and even our relationships have been commodified. This is the ultimate goal of neoliberalism, the total marketization of the human soul. When you start seeing yourself as a human capital or a brand, the system has won. You're living in the matrix. You have become a voluntary cog in the machine. But why does it feel so hard to break out? This is because of what I'll call the propaganda of scarcity. Nigeria is a land of abundance, yet we are governed by the fear of not enough. This fear is manufactured. Scarcity is the whip, is the cane used by the capitalist system to keep the slavery running. If you believe there isn't enough to go around, of course you never practice true communalism. You never share your lights because you're afraid that your own flame won't go out. This is the collective ego of Nigeria, a fragmented and traumatized entity that believes it's a giant but moves like a slave. We are focusing on ancestral economic models. Before the ledger of the Royal Niger Company, there were systems of communal trust, of isusu, of land that belonged to the community and not the corporation. We had an economy based on enoughness and not excess. We had an Ubuntu philosophy. The awakening we talk about isn't just a political realization. It's a metaphysical shift. It's the act of unplugging from the Nigerian mirage or the matrix. To unplug means to stop seeking validation from a system that devalues you. It means recognizing that the hustle is a treadmill designed to keep you in place. It means healing the collective trauma that makes us worship wealth, regardless of how it is acquired. That's why when there's any form of a revolt or even a hint of a collective awakening, such as during the NSAS or whatever protest comes up, the response is always so violent because the system cannot survive a population that has stopped being afraid. Your fear is your power. So where do we go from here though? The Japa phenomenon is often seen as the only solution to physically leave the enclosure of Nigeria. But the truth is, you can leave Nigeria and still carry the same machine in your head. You can move to London or New York and still be a prisoner of the same neoliberal logic. You're just in a different cell and with maybe constant electricity or, good roads. The truth is internal. It is the great unlearning. We must unlearn the idea that we are human capital. We must unlearn the idea that our value is tied to our productivity. You didn't come to this world to work and give them your label. That's not your role for existing. We must unlearn the fear of our neighbor. We need to be sovereign because alternative systems do exist. They've always existed. They exist in traditional systems of collective labor, communal farming, savings groups, informal mutual aid networks. These practices exist across various Nigerian cultures. These aren't just primitive ways of living. They are sophisticated systems of collective resource management that were deliberately destroyed or marginalized because they presented a threat to the individualistic market logic. When communities come together, the state and the system collapses. Think about it. What would a Nigeria without a capitalist system look like? A Nigeria that understands that the economy is not a place of individual competition, but a collective project for meeting human needs. The system isn't going to collapse on its own. It is designed to be a self-healing parasite. But the parasite dies when the host wakes up and realizes he doesn't need the passenger to survive. Nigeria is not a tragedy, it's a classroom. And the lesson is that no amount of oil, no amount of gold, and no amount of hustle can save a soul that has forgotten his own divinity and identity. The cage is open. It has always been. The locks are just made of propaganda. The giant of Africa doesn't need to grow. It needs to wake up. Stop running on the treadmill. Look at the person next to you. Recognize the life force that the system is trying to harvest. And then together, we choose to vibrate at a different frequency. The mirage exists only as long as you believe in it. So stay awake. Fuck with me.